As the REO Speedwagon plane was being seized outside of Varnamtown, a cop from the neighboring town of Ocean Isle did a check at the small little airport there. And this other cop was surprised to see a small plane land.
That's kind of weird. 2 a.m., right?
While this crazy drug-running operation is falling apart just nearby.
Yeah.
And Herman Strong gets out of the airplane. And they just have a casual hello conversation.
That's DEA agent Mike Grimes. And he's talking about the same Sheriff Strong from episode 2 who helped Roger Morton impound a boatload of marijuana.
No, wait a second. You're saying the sheriff of the whole county was in the air the same night as the REO Speedwagon incident?
What was he doing up there?
Well, good question. Welcome back to Varnamtown.
We became friends. I went down there and met him. Met Herman.
Grimes hears mention of this meeting between Sheriff Strong and a diligent deputy, and his curiosity is piqued. He'd actually become close with Strong over the years. So what was his friend, Sheriff Strong, doing out there in the middle of the night flying around? This is the story as Grimes tells.
He said they were looking for safe crackers, that a safe had been stolen, and they were going to fly around Brunswick County at 2 o'clock in the morning when it was dark so they could see somebody with an acetylene torch breaking into the safe.
Makes complete sense to me.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. And it just was a pure coincidence that the REO Speedwagon plane happened to land that night nearby.
First of all, what a crazy idea that you're going to find a safecracker out in the woods with an acetylene torch by flying around at night.
Well, listen, Sheriff Strong is obviously a very proactive cop.
True.
He's doing it, by the way, he's not letting any of his deputies do it. He's doing this himself.
Yeah.
That's how much he cares.
Yeah.
He is out there defending Varnamtown day and night.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Well, there was another problem, which is that they were flying in what's called a low-wing aircraft, which means that the wings were below the windows of the plane.
Right.
Not overhead.
Right.
So that when Sheriff Strong would look out the plane, all they would see was wing.
Wing, yeah, no way to see the ground, really, clearly.
The plane is being flown by a pilot mechanic named Earl Faircloth. So I said, Earl, why did you use a low-wing airplane? He said, I would just lay it over on the side and go around in circles. You and Herman, 2 o'clock in the morning, lay it on the side.
Sheriff Strong and Earl are up there at the middle of the night, supposedly flying around in circles, looking for signs of an acetylene torch in the forest.
They're like doing donuts in the clouds.
Yeah,
That's spinning donuts in the cloud.
He and Herman Strong were out there as lookouts.
Grimes was able to put a case together against his friend, Sheriff Strong, and he didn't wait to arrest him.
He went in the hospital for elective surgery. I didn't give a shit. I went into his hospital bed, and he's got tubes and shit coming out of it. I don't know what kind of surgery it was. But I told him, you're under arrest.
How did it feel when you realized that he was corrupt?
Disappointed.
It must have hurt to know that this man that you respected, what was...
I mean, it was tough.
The sheriff of the whole county was flying lookout for a Colombian drug plane? That's crazy.
It is.
Was Dale Varnum involved?
Well, that's a good question. We spoke, actually, to another cop, a guy named Corey Duber, whom we'll hear a lot more from later. But here's what Corey Duber heard.
I can tell you that Dale claimed that he had Strong in his pocket, that he would pay him.
So now Lefty...
Now, he's the local drug smuggler we've spoken to throughout the show.
Exactly. He says that Strong was paid in cash.
In an envelope.
How much money?
Probably got $100 apiece.
100,000
apiece.
$100,000 per shipment or per year?
No, per shipment.
Per shipment. And how many shipments might there be a year?
There were probably 20 to 25 a year.
So if you're a police chief getting $100,000 per shipment, and there's 20 to 25 shipments, you're talking about over $2 million.
Right, that's right.
$2 million a year, and then in the early 80s is a lot of money.
Nice salary, isn't it?
Lefty's right. That is a good salary.
And there's enough to spread around. So we kind of suggests that people below him were involved too.
That's true.
So how far does it extend to the entire department?
Well, Grimes started to arrest people and push them to cooperate. And the trail led him to another local top cop, a guy named Red Varnum, who was the chief of police for a nearby town.
Wait, I know that name. That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does sound familiar.
I arrested him. He and I were friends. It was sad. You know, I arrested him. I'm fingerprinting him. He's a friend. He starts crying. He had me crying. I felt so bad for him.
Red Varnum eventually pled guilty of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute drugs.
I love it how Grimes is friends with everybody.
Yeah, he really is connected.
Yeah, but then he always ends up arresting his friends.
Yes.
It's a tough relationship.
Oh, feel for him. He's not going to have anybody to go to dinner with.
He's not going to have any friends if he keeps arresting them at this
I
pace.
know, exactly right.
Well, there's actually even more to the story, and it's going to hit real close to home for one local resident.
Paul Campbell was the chief deputy, and he had a pursuit car, you know, big engine. And he goes up the road past the airport.
Paul Campbell was on duty the night of the REO Speedwagon incident. While his boss, Sheriff Strong, was flying around overhead, it appears that Campbell was not crooked, based on what happened next.
He sees a car pulling out where the payphone was. The store is closed, and they're coming out of there. We've got this whole smuggling thing going on. So Paul tries to stop the car. They won't stop.
Now, don't forget from the last episode that there are multiple vehicles fleeing the scene. You have kind-hearted Larry Joyner, chasing down a van full of suspects, including the gorilla, the Colombian narco-trafficker. So he's getting pulled over, and now Paul Campbell spots another car.
And don't forget Chang, who's out thumbing a ride trying to hitchhike his way to safety with a Baptist minister.
Yeah. So you've got Chang out there, you've got Roper, the pilot who couldn't land the plane, and now there's this other car speeding away.
Now he's certain these people are involved in this. He said, it took me forever to catch him, and he's got these pursuit cars can do like 130 miles an hour. I mean, they're fast. Paul gets on the inside of him, push the car over in a ditch, and out comes Duane Morton.
Duane Morton? Roger Morton's brother.
That's right, the Clam cop.
Unbelievable. Roger Morton, the fisherman who moved to the area to live a life of peace and quiet and fish.
And fish.
Yes.
And now his brother, he's not just pulling over. Paul Campbell has to run his car off the road.
Yeah, Duane's not stopping.
Duane's not stopping.
Yeah.
So Duane Morton gets out of this car that has just been run off the road by a deputy.
Yeah, and we already know that Sheriff Strong is circling overhead in a small plane.
Right, but Duane doesn't report to Sheriff Strong. Duane is a Clam cop, and he often works at night.
So then why doesn't he just pull over?
Maybe he couldn't see him in his rearview mirror.
Paul knows them. They're marine fisheries officers. They work the marine fisheries thing. Those guys worked at night all the time, you know, chasing illegal clammers and taking illegal oysters.
So Deputy Campbell lets Duane go.
What? Again?
Again. He's like kind-hearted Larry.
Yeah, he's kind-hearted Larry. Exactly. He must have had a very good excuse.
I mean, the obvious one is that there was some kind of illegal clamming operation going on, and Duane needed to go deal with it at high speed.
Yeah.
And maybe he thought Paul
was also participating.
And that's why they were both driving so fast.
Yeah, the same direction.
Well, regardless of what Duane thought, Paul Campbell was suspicious. So he called Grimes and told him to interview Duane and the other Clam cop that was with Duane.
Yeah.
Paul is putting the pressure on me. I'm not convinced. I said, Paul, they're out working. He said, Mike, I'm telling you, they ran from me. I didn't believe it. Paul Campbell pushed me to question them. And I didn't want to do it. I said, all right. So I go and I interviewed Duane Morton. And he gives me this story about what they were doing that night. And they were out working. And their blood sugar was low. And then he goes on with this long story about they went here and they went there and they were out looking for a soft drink because you got to have sugar right away.
As far as cover stories go, this is one of my favorites. It's like, no, it had nothing to do with the plane full of drugs from Colombia. It's simply that I needed a soda pop.
Right.
Because I'm diabetic.
You know what I like about it? It's simple.
It is simple. And in fact, Duane was diabetic. So it was plausible.
Okay.
And get this, Grimes was also diabetic.
Okay.
So
he's sympathetic.
He was sympathetic. He was understanding. Duane needed a soda pop, right? Low blood sugar. Look, what's important is what Grimes thought. And Grimes thought that it all sounded perfectly normal. Well, just to cross the T's and dot the I's, Grimes interviewed Ken Law, the other Clam cop who was with Duane that night.
When I got Ken Law in there next, he told me the same exact story verbatim. It was memorized. That ain't the way it works. He had the whole thing down so pat, and I knew right then and there that they were involved. They were lookouts.
It doesn't take much, just 2 stories, perfectly aligned, and he's got you.
It seems pretty thin to me. Like, how do you take that to a judge? How do you take that to a prosecutor and eventually a jury? They told the same story. Do you have any other evidence? Well, they were out there driving around really fast at night, which, is suspicious. I grant you that. But does this hold up in court?
Who knows? It's Varnamtown.
Yeah. Remember, this is Roger Morton's brother and confidant, and you can imagine how Roger felt to learn that his own brother was implicated in the very drug-running operation that Roger was trying to take down.
I mean, he'd be incredibly disappointed.
Yeah.
Right?
And it wasn't long after the REO Speedwagon incident that Roger Morton asked to meet Grimes at the Tasty Freeze and showed up with Duane.
So now we see why Grimes was so worried about the Tasty Freeze.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Do you eat breakfast?
I do eat breakfast. Usually I eat what my son has left on the table.
Do you think that's a good idea?
No, it's actually not a good idea.
Well, this is what I want to talk about. I think that there are things that we do that we think, I probably shouldn't do that. I would like to change some of my habits. And in fact, BetterHelp is a way of focusing on that. It matches you online with a therapist who can talk about the things you're doing right and also focus on the habits you want to change. Great. So you don't have to eat your son's leftover breakfast every morning.
That would be a step in the right direction.
Well, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try.
It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit betterhelp.com/town today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/town. You'll be glad you did.
Here's a question. Why would Duane get involved in the smuggling operations around Varnamtown?
Well, we asked Roger Morton that, and here's what he said.
Well, it wasn't the money. He had a good job. He had 17 years. 3 more years, he could have retired.
So Duane was only a few years away from retirement? That's why risk it?
Well, Duane died in October of 2021, so we couldn't talk to him. But Roger explained that Duane wanted to get into shrimping.
Oh my God. Shrimping? That's what brought him down?
Yeah.
Duane bought a shrimp boat, and he had worked for the state for 17 years at that time. And he wanted to fish. And he didn't know anything about it. He had done some fishing, but never shrimping. And Leighton Reeves helped him along a lot, and they became friends.
Now, Leighton Reeves, that's a name we've not heard before.
That's right. This is Leighton Reeves, a notorious shrimp boat operator and smuggler in Varnamtown.
So he's probably a really good influence on Duane. Oh, dear.
By the way, I want to point something out here. I appreciate how all of these grown men in the Varnamtown area make such good, close male friends. That's not something you see too much later in life.
Right.
Men, their social circles kind of ossify as they get older. They don't necessarily make new friends. These guys are great at making friends.
Yes.
They make friends with anybody. They make friends with the Colombians. They make friends with the Chinese.
Sure.
They make friends with each other. They make friends with the smugglers. It's a very friendly place.
It's a friendly town,
Yeah.
Varnamtown.
Maybe Duane looked around at everybody else in Varnamtown who were ostensibly shrimpers.
Oh, maybe.
And they were making so much
Seemed to
money
be
by
making
shrimping.
bank, sure.
And Duane's like, oh, that's the path to glory. He didn't know it was cocaine.
That's what I want.
These guys are driving fancy cars. They've got gold chains. Shrimping is how to strike it rich.
That's where it's at.
I think he was misunderstanding something.
I agree. What it sounds like Duane is having maybe a midlife crisis, decides he doesn't want to be a cop anymore, wants to go out to the sea and fish, and this Leighton Reeves, smuggler guy, senses an opportunity.
I think that's probably right. Because Duane just didn't know much about shrimping, and so in steps this smuggler to help the clam cop.
Everybody's very helpful in this town.
Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. You'll have over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more. And there's even more to enjoy with over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. Head to factormeals.com/Varnamtown50 and use code Varnamtown50 to get 50% off. That's code Varnamtown50 at factormeals.com/Varnamtown50 to get 50% off.
I like the image of Duane having a midlife crisis. I see him floating out there in his little clam cop boat while these giant shrimping trawlers go steaming out to sea, having the time of their life. They're rich, they're partying, they have Playboy playmates mowing their lawn, and poor Duane is just sitting there bobbing around.
Yeah.
A clam cop. I mean, what could be more dishonorable than being called a clam cop?
It's a little sad. He's out there with his binoculars.
Counting the clams.
Yeah. He's got his little Coleman ice chest open. Maybe
with
he's
iced tea.
Iced tea inside, drinking. Maybe he's got a bologna sandwich.
And you're right. That would induce a midlife crisis.
Yes.
He's like, I've worked my entire life for this.
Yeah.
And there's something about being on the edge of retirement that forces a man to consider his life.
Yes, and alternatives.
Yeah. What does he want to do with the rest of his life?
And the road not taken.
Yeah, what is the road not taken for a clam cop? It's to become a clammer. It's to become a shrimper.
Right.
It's
to do the opposite.
To do the opposite.
Yeah, sure.
To do the thing you haven't done.
Yeah. I'm with you on this.
Yeah. And so Duane reinvents himself. The problem is he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, he's taking advice from somebody he shouldn't take advice from.
I think Duane liked Leighton Reeves. Leighton Reeves was his friend, had helped him when he needed help, in shrimping. And Duane was not going to do anything to hurt his friends. He was loyal to his friends. I mean, that's the way we grew up. You take care of your friends.
Duane was 3 years older than Roger, and they were really close. And ever since they were kids, they looked out for each other. Roger remembers one story from their childhood in particular.
Daddy warned him, don't touch that hatchet. Don't touch that. It's really sharp. Well, he stuck it in his knee, and every time his heart beat, blood was just shooting out. And we was almost a mile from the house. And I had to carry him on my back because he couldn't walk. We didn't have anything to put a tourniquet on it. I about broke my back getting him back to the house. And but every time we'd leave the house, my mother would tell me, "Now, Roger, take care of Duane." And then I'd hear her tell Duane, "Duane, take care of Roger." So that's kind of how we grew up. We loved one another. Oh, we were best friends.
You hear the catch in his voice?
I do.
Seems like maybe Leighton Reeves did take advantage of Duane's sense of loyalty.
Yeah, I think it's true. And I think Roger sensed the danger.
I remember telling him, don't even drive by Leighton Reeves' house.
You were not in favor of that friendship?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And we talked about it, and I said, well, Duane, if he's doing what they say, that's not loyalty, that's stupidity. You can't take care of him. Now, I understand loyalty to a friend, but I don't understand putting yourself in jeopardy to do it.
Grimes wanted the Clam cop to rat on his friends in Varnamtown, and Duane actually talked to his brother about it.
And he said, all they wanted me to do, Mike Grimes wanted me to help him catch Leighton Reeves. They wanted him to help put his friend in jail. And he wasn't going to do it.
Now here's where things get really messy. The federal government didn't just go after Duane. They also went after Roger. They basically accused him of involvement in the smuggling that he was trying to stop.
And maybe trying to pressure Duane by messing with Roger.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, yeah, they went to my house to make a show with about 15 agents with their automatic weapons, got on my boat and took it.
They confiscated. They confiscated your boat.
Yeah.
The accusation was that Roger's boat was part of the smuggling operation, that it was being used to coordinate offshore with motherships.
So that meant Roger couldn't work as a fisherman.
Because they took his boat.
Yeah, and he and his brother, they were facing huge legal bills.
So Roger ended up having to sell his house in order to survive.
And he started to hear reports of who was after him.
I'll never forget, after I had sold my house to pay lawyers and try to get through this, a friend who was a policeman came to my house one afternoon. And he said, Roger, I need to talk to you. He said, you know that son of a bitch named Mike Grimes? I said, yeah, I know him. He said, you know he's trying to put you in jail?
Now, Mike Grimes does not remember it that way. He says he always knew that Roger was clean. But it is true that the government impounded Roger's boat.
Either way, Roger fixated on Mike Grimes and went on the offensive against him.
So your brother's lawyer subpoenaed you to testify.
In the trial, that was about the Lockheed Lodestar.
That's the REO Speedwagon Lockheed Lodestar.
And what did you say in court?
But I knew that there was some crooks somewhere. And the judge said, Mr. Morton, are you saying that you think Mr. Grimes are crooked? I said, Judge, let me tell you something. I said, that's absolutely what I'm saying.
And the main evidence that Roger seems to have for this is that the drugs continued to come into the area. And so he was upset because he thought Grimes had the power to stop it. So he's like, you're the drug enforcement guy.
Yeah.
And here are the drugs. Stop the drugs. To
Yeah.
Roger, it's very simple.
Yeah.
But as we know now, after decades of a drug war, it's not simple.
No.
The DEA has not been able to stop the flow of drugs into this country.
Yeah.
But for Roger, it's emotional. It's corrupted his brother. It's corrupted his vision of paradise.
Yeah.
And he's got to blame somebody.
Yeah.
And there's Mike Grimes.
How did it help your brother to accuse the DEA of corruption?
Well, that may not have helped him. It may have made it worse for him.
Well, in the end, accusing Mike Grimes of being corrupt did not help. Duane was found guilty of conspiring to smuggle, as was the other Clam cop, Ken Law. Duane went to prison for 2.5 years.
And Roger?
His world was decimated.
Well, it cost me about 4 years of heartache and just about destroyed my family. And cost me a boat, cost me lots of money and a lot of heartache. And cost me my place on the beach, worried my parents to death.
I mean, think about the expectation that Roger had when he first came to Varnamtown, the excitement and the life that he was going to lead.
And in the end, he lost his house. He lost his boat. He lost his brother. All the things that really mattered to him. It feels like a Shakespearean tragedy. A guy sets out to lead his dream life, and that desire ends up destroying him.
There's this deep irony that you were trying to get the smuggling out of your community, and your own brother fell into it.
Yeah.
Do you think about that?
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I don't know what to make of it.
Did he regret it?
I know he did. I could have beat him half to death at times, but I still loved him.
In the last episode, Grimes was chasing Chang, the Taiwanese pilot, all over Brunswick County, and finally discovered that the guy was already in jail for not paying his taxi fare.
And with Larry Joyner's help, kind-hearted Larry, Grimes connected the plane to Colombian drug dealers.
At the same time, the plane implicates Roger's brother. But here's the big question. Where is Dale Varnum in all of this?
Exactly. What did Dale Varnum have to do with the REO Speedwagon incident?
Well, we know that one cop, Corey Duber, quotes Dale, saying that Dale was indeed paying Sheriff Herman Strong.
And Mike Grimes says the Varnums were involved in the REO Speedwagon incident. Dale's dad got pulled over in a fuel truck near the airport the night the plane landed.
Guess what was in it? Aviation fuel. And there was a whole duffel bag full of portable landing lights.
Dale's dad, Olaf, was in fact arrested in connection with the Lockheed Lodestar REO Speedwagon operation. But a jury found him not guilty.
I don't wear false teeth, but I thought my teeth were going to fall out when they let him go.
So what happened to Dale Varnum?
Well, some people say he was heavily involved in the REO Speedwagon case. Others say he had nothing to do with it. But Lefty, the local drug dealer we've been speaking to, remembers going to the runway with Dale before the landing.
When the REO Speedwagon landed at the airport, 2 days before me and Dale went down, he took me and we went down to look at the airport, see where the fuel truck needed to be and everything needed to be to get everything to happen.
From Lefty's perspective, Dale masterminded the whole thing. And there were some in law enforcement who believed that too. At least they believed it until they discovered who Dale really was.
In our next episode, we're going to follow the investigator who took Dale down and try to understand exactly this. Who was Dale Varnum?
Varnamtown is produced by Epic Magazine, Picture Perfect Federation, and Full Picture in association with PodcastOne.
Special thanks go out to the residents of Varnamtown for telling their story and to Lynn Betts for her help.
The Epic team includes Harry Spitzer, Josh Levine, Frank Slodisco, Melise Toussaint, Dan O'Sullivan, and Leela Tulin.
Additional reporting by Kijin Higashibaba.
The Picture Perfect Federation team includes Patrick Waxberger, Ashley Stern, Tyler Nell, and Samina Martin.
The Full Picture squad is Desiree Gruber and Ann Walls. Frank Reyna supported me during production. Original music composed by Jonna Bechtold and Rob Kieswetter. Additional music provided by American Production Music, Epidemic Sound, and Premium Beats. Studio recordings took place at Silver Lake Recording Studios.